guys, it's Holly. If you are new to my channel, welcome. I do a lot of cooking, travel, homeschooling, and motherhood videos. And today I am talking about homeschooling because I want to share with you some books that have helped us immensely with our homeschooling. And that is the What Your Blank Grader Needs to Know. Now, blank, what are you talking about? Blank meaning either first, second, third, fourth, fifth, or sixth. There are 6 books that I'm going to be sharing with you today. And just depending upon what grade you are looking at, you can fill in the blank and get whatever book you need for whatever grade. We have all 6 books and have used them a lot in our homeschooling. Now, if you have never heard of these books, it would not surprise me. A lot of homeschooling friends of mine out there, if I have mentioned these books to them, they most likely have told me they have never heard of them. How we came across them really was by accident, and ever since we found out about them, we have used them so much with our homeschooling. And I gotta say, there is one particular reason why we really liked using these books, and that is because of all the classic literature that these books provide. We want to give our kids a classic education, and we found that these books covered so much classic stories, poems, and fables, you name it, and for that grade level. You know, being homeschooling parents, in the beginning, we were wondering if we were covering everything that we needed to. And we found that these books really helped us to see things that we were lacking in, things that we were not covering. While these books are great for the classic literature, it also covers history, art, music, science. While we don't tend to use this book for everything, it still can be very helpful if we want to just check to see if we've covered that in our homeschooling for that particular grade. So anyhow, these books are great for homeschooling families or non-homeschooling families. Say you are not a homeschooling parent, but you still want your kids to get some classic education at home, some great reads, or even you want to have some great read-alouds to your kids. These books are wonderful read-alouds. The classic stories, the history, it is a great way for you to spend that time with your kids, reading out loud to them and teaching them at the same time. Whether you want to use this for kind of a base of what you want to be covering for that grade or just a second resource. I got to tell you, this is not our true curriculum. The history that it covers, this is not going to be our core history curriculum, but it is a great bonus to be able to cover a lot of the history. Overall, it is a great basis for parents to make sure their kids are learning certain things that they will typically learn in those grades. I'm not saying it is an alternative for testing. A lot of times parents will do the standardized testing so that way they can make sure their kids are where they need to be grade-wise. It's more a sense of covering what kids will typically learn in school for all those different subjects or, different books that they suggest reading for those different grade levels. There are so many reasons why these books are great as far as what they cover, and you don't even have to use everything. You can just pick different parts of it that you like. We, of course, use it mostly for the classic literature and just making sure that our kids are familiar with a lot of these older stories. Overall, just a great read aloud, as I said before. Anyhow, let me get into it right now. I'm going to share with you all 6 of the books we have of What Your Blank Grader Needs to Know, grades 1 through 6, and I will do a flip through of first grade just to give you an idea of what the first book looks like. But if you are interested in any of the other grades, if you want to see what the other books look like, I would be happy to do more flip throughs. Please put it in the comments below if you would like me to do a flip through of another grade for these books. I will do it as long as I get at least one request. So anyhow, let me get into it right now. Share with you what your blank grader needs to know for grades 1 through 6. Here is all 6 of the books. You will notice that they might have a slightly different look to them. That is because some of them are different editions. I will have links to each each of these books in the description box below so you can find them real easily. Now getting into what your first grader needs to know. I'm only going to be going through this book, but all the books will have the same layout. The book will start off with a note to teachers, the teachers being, of course, the parents, talking about how this book will provide other ideas and suggestions for things you can do along with the reads provided. Of course, there will be the table of content where you can see what order everything is in, the different sections, and what is available in the different sections. Then there is some additional information on general instruction to core knowledge series. These books are through core knowledge, so they will explain a little bit more about them. Then they will get into the first section, which is language and literature. This is what actually sold us these books, is the language and literature section. Before it gets into all the reads, it will give some more information on the importance of reading with your kids, and how they learn through hearing stories. Overall, it does have some helpful information in here, and all the additional references that it gives can be a great addition. Then you get into the different reads. It starts off with poetry and rhymes, and like I said, this one is geared towards first graders. Every book will be geared towards that grade, but it is full of poems, rhymes, and fables. These are all classic, and it is great to introduce your kids to each of these different reads. Then it'll get into all the stories, and the stories are going to be taken from an entire book or just part of a book, but they do provide information on the book if you want to read further, such as if they only have part of the story but you want to read the entire story or the entire book it came from, they will have that information. I'll go ahead and flip through right now and show you an idea of all the stories they have here in the first grader book. History and geography will be the second section in this book. History and geography is by far my favorite subject to teach, so I really do enjoy having all these different things that I could read to my kids. Now, this is not our history curriculum for homeschooling, but I do love having additional things to read up on when it comes to history. And in the first grader book, it'll go all the way back to ancient times and will continue on all the way to early American history. It won't cover everything in history, but it will cover a lot of important things and is appropriate for that grade level. I also really enjoy all of the illustrations in this book, the different pictures from history, maps, and the visuals that it gives really all throughout the book. The next section of this book will be the visual arts. Now, I think this part of the book is a great introduction to fine arts for your child. I do not do a whole lot with curriculum in my homeschooling when it comes to fine arts, so I find this section of the book really a great addition to our homeschooling. I do have a few books that I use for teaching my kids about fine arts, but this in the book here is a great addition to teaching and introducing my kids to different paintings and sculptures, etc. Next is the music section of this book. And the same with fine arts. I don't really do a curriculum for music for my kids, so it does help with introducing them to a lot of the history of music, composers. This book gets into talking about different instruments and dancing. Also has a lot of songs in the back that you can teach your kids, have them sing along with you. Then there will be the mathematics section of this book. Now we have a totally separate math curriculum for all of our kids. We do Saxton math, but I do really like all of the stuff that they have in here as just a bonus. Say your child is not catching on to a lot of math in the curriculum that you are using. They have a lot of great visuals in here, a lot of things you can work on with your kids. But again, it just talks about where your kids should be at for that grade level. The last section will be the science section. And for science in our homeschooling, we are a part of a homeschool enrichment program that teaches science. So I don't do anything at home when it comes to teaching my kids science. However, I still find that there's a lot of great reads in here. And if I have time to read this whole book to my kids throughout the whole school year, I will try and get in and read some of these stories here in the science section of the book. Then getting into the very back of the book, it's going to have text credits and sources where all of these different stories, poems came from. As well, it'll have your index. Well, that is it. That is my flip through of what your first grader needs to know. But as I said before, all 6 of these books are laid out the same way. They're all going to be broken down into these different sections. They are just going to cover for whatever grade your child is in. I definitely hope that this was helpful and that it gave you a good understanding of what these books are all about. I highly recommend them for homeschooling families that are looking for some extra resources when it comes to their homeschooling. At the same time, I recommend it to non-homeschooling families. Parents, if you send your kids to school, these books are still great to have. So that way you can know if your child is learning what they need to be learning for whatever grade they are in. As well, it is a great way for you to be a part and get more involved with their education. If you enjoyed this video or got anything out of it, please hit the like button. Consider subscribing as well if you haven't already. I post a new video every Tuesday. I got more homeschooling videos coming up. Thank you so much for watching, and may you have a beautiful day.